What is up, everyone? Barricade here, and Gears of War Judgment is on the way. It's almost here. But one thing I've been thinking about is if you heard, I don't know if you heard already, but they already basically been stating that the new Xbox and the new generation of consoles is going to be out soon. I heard supposedly, the new Xbox, new PlayStation, all that's going to be out by the end of this year, supposedly. But anyways, what I'm trying to say here is one thing that I think Gears should really, really do, one thing that would be amazing if they did this, is if they did a prequel trilogy. And by this, what I mean is basically, you remember like Halo, how it had Halo 1, 2, 3, Halo Reach, and then Halo 4, and then they're going to do 5 and 6 later on. One thing I think Gears should do, kind of the same thing. You know, Gears 1, 2, 3, Judgment, not count Judgment towards this trilogy. Don't count Judgment towards this trilogy. And then make this new trilogy, the second trilogy, on the new Xbox. Start them up on the new Xbox. I've heard that they basically, supposedly, don't hold this against me, but basically they stated that they are going to do another trilogy. That's what I heard. I saw it like on a post they did on Epic. That was like rumors or something like that. They were going to do another trilogy. In my opinion, I don't think Judgment should count towards this trilogy, and they should start the new trilogy on the next generation consoles. Instead of like Halo, where it's a sequel trilogy, where it's after Halo 3 and it goes into this new thing. In my opinion, I think they should do a prequel trilogy. Basically, pull a Star Wars. If you seen Star Wars before, obviously they did the first three movies, and then they made a prequel thing where it was the leading up to where he became Darth Vader, etc. And what I'm thinking, what they should do, they should pull something like this with Gears. If you realize this, after E-Day, there is a 14-year gap before Gears 1. You know how much stuff they can do with Gears in a 14-year span? They did Gears 1 through 3 within a year, like a few span of like 2-3 years. Like Gears of War 3 was only like a few years after the first game. And look how much stuff that happened in those 3 games. And imagine what they could do with the 14 years between E-Day and the first game. And this could actually spawn like a lot of different stories, like what happened after Marcus went into prison. Maybe make a game about Dom, a game after what happened with him when he was what, like how he coped with it, trying to find Maria. Like they could do stuff like that. They could do a game about Cole. They can do a game about they could do all this stuff. And then they can also do parts of the game that explain why the queen looks human. That's something that's always bothered me. Why the heck does the queen look human? And if you've seen in my my Gears of War lore commentaries, I've said a few times that she's probably the product of the sires, like a perfect sire in my opinion. Maybe she was like a sire. If you don't know what a sire is, basically the sires were like these human locust hybrid experiments that the scientists did, and I guess he was trying to create the new evolutionary chain of people. And he was trying to do that, and they never really said if he did or not. The last thing they ever did was in Gears 2, where they said that he took the sires to Mount Kadar, which ends up being the place where the queen is. So obviously, what I'm thinking is, he made the perfect sire. It was the queen. He took her to Mount Kadar, and then she ended up taking over the Locusts and becoming their queen, since she was part Locust, so they listened to her. So they could actually do a game where they show that, or they can just do a DLC for a new Gears game that shows that. They can do a lot with the Gears of War storyline, because there's so much stuff that hasn't been answered before. And just in my opinion, they should just keep it from E-Day and afterwards. Don't do Pendulum Wars. I'm sorry if you like the Pendulum Wars idea. I don't think that would be very interesting, because first of all, Gears has always been about the human Locust War. The first game started off 14 years after E-Day. You're Marcus Dom trying to fight the Locusts, etc. And it's always been that tone with the humans versus Locusts. And doing a Pendulum Wars, first of all, would be pointless, because first of all, there's no Locusts, first of all. Second of all, it has nothing to do with what happens after E-Day. Like, yeah, they showed stuff in the novels, what happened to Anya's mom, how she died, Dom's brother, how he died. That's all cool stuff on, parts of character development and stuff like that. But that's not something they should do a game about, because the game has always been about, like I said, human versus locust. And they should just start after Judgment. Basically, start the trilogy after Judgment. Judgment takes place 30 days after E-Day, and they should make a game that takes place maybe years after that. They can show when the hammer strikes hit. If you heard my Gears of War lower commentaries, basically 1 year after E-Day, they realized that they were fucked, so they decided to nuke the world with the Hammer of Dawn, killing like everyone. Over 90% of the planet was scorched. So many people died. The stranded basically came out of the holes that were left, and they could do stuff about that too. They could basically make a game that shows, maybe even make a game about the stranded. You never know. They can always do so many things that happens between Emergence Day into the first game, and they could explain so much that hasn't been ever been explained. In my opinion, this should be something they should really think about doing. If they're not, like I said, there's been rumors that they're doing a trilogy, and the reason why I don't want a sequel trilogy, for Gears of War 4, 5, 6, is because, in my opinion, that doesn't make sense. Because Gears of War 3, spoiler, if you haven't played Gears 3, it's been a year already. I don't know where you've been if you haven't yet. But basically, spoiler, at the end of Gears 3, they said that, that thing that Adam Phoenix made sent those waves out, and it kills basically all the Lambent and all the locusts. And if you haven't realized this yet, it actually killed all the locusts too, even if they weren't Lambent, because that's why the Queen at the end of the third game was going so crazy on Adam Phoenix, because she knew that once he did that, it would kill not only the Lambent but all the locusts too, even if they weren't Lambent. And I guess it's something. The only thing I can think of, the only thing that's explainable to that, is maybe the fact that maybe since they're both underground or around each other so much, maybe their DNA signature, whatever you can think of the word, is similar. So it didn't know how to tell the difference between the locust and the lambent, so it killed them both. And for them to make a game where, oh no, suddenly the locusts are back, that would be stupid in my opinion, because first of all, it wouldn't make sense. It would contradict the story. And second of all, it would make the whole, spoiler again if you haven't played Gears 3, the whole thing with Dom dying kind of redundant. It would make it like, no, Dom sacrificed himself for us, but at least he did it. He helped, helped us defeat the Queen finally, and then they're still alive. Like, that would be stupid, in my opinion. It would just make that whole sad part, completely redundant. And that's why I don't want a sequel trilogy. They should do a prequel trilogy that explains everything that needs to be explained about the Locust, about the Queen, about the Sires, about all that. All the stuff that's never been shown. And also even do better character development on, Marcus. Marcus has always been like this tough guy that just doesn't really, kind of says very few things, doesn't really talk too much. You barely saw him have a lot of emotion in Gears 3, with, spoiler, Dom dying and his dad dying. And before that, he didn't really have too much emotion, unless someone was dying. And in my opinion, what I think they should do is they should really do the games that explain it, and also show more character development between them. Because if you read the novels, you know that there's so much more character development in the books that the games just unfortunately do not show. And I think they should actually think about doing this, because it would further expand the universe of it, basically, and it would be a great thing for the fans, and it could also help more people get into it. You know what I mean? They can put that dark tone that Gears 1 had into the other games, and put that dark tone. Locusts are the worst things ever. They're these monsters that are ruthless, evil killers that, they could do so much with it. And honestly, I think Gears would greatly expand if they did a prequel trilogy. But anyways, I'm running out of time here. If you guys like this video, please hit that like button. Subscribe. I always do Gears of War 3. I'm going to do Gears of War Judgment when it's out. I like to do various, videos about Gears, etc. And tell me what you guys think in the comments. Would you think that a prequel trilogy for Gears would be awesome? Would it be good? Would it be a good thing to expand the universe? I think it would. Say no to sequel trilogy. Say yes to prequel trilogy, because that would be a lot better. And it would explain a lot more things that haven't been explained in the story. But anyways, once again, guys, hit that like button, guys. Subscribe. Thanks for watching.